I was really fortunate to be part of a lot of the Wiggles songwriting when I was there too, understanding what children, really love, especially from the Wiggles as a brand, because that musically is completely different almost to Emma Memma. And so when we started Emma Memma, really our focus was bringing dance and visual language to children. I feel very fortunate. It's quite easy because it's really about the children. And I guess because we're performing for children all the time, as soon as you kind of get to the venue that you're performing at, whether that's a library or a preschool or a fully packed auditorium, as soon as you hear their little voices as you're starting to get ready, that kind of changes the whole atmosphere of the day.
Hmm. Have you found that stayed constant across your career performing for children, no matter where you are, what mood you're in, perhaps how little sleep you got the night before when you start doing that? You get in performance mode.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel that I probably tune into it more, like the older that I get and the more performances that we do. And now that we have our own independent company, I'm waiting to hear that crowd before we go out, because then I know it's going to be really raucous or it's going to be really peaceful. That kind of sets the tone. But yeah, I really tune into that audience inner rumble before the show.
The Rumble, I love that. I,
Yeah.
I I'm in Brisbane. I unfortunately missed your shows here
Oh,
on the weekend.
I missed you.
I went to another children's music show yesterday, Teeny Tiny Stevie's.
Teeny tiny, yeah. Because Sybil, she reached out to me and she's like, we're on the opposite day. And I was like, why did we do this? And, with a lot of children's performers, we don't get a chance to see each other perform. But actually, Beth and Sybil, we've known them for years and years and years and years. And it's so nice that we were in the same place. But this time we missed each other.
Yes, I have a 6-year-old boy, and we've seen them a couple times previously, and we've seen the Wiggles as well. So yeah, we get to what we can, but we can't be everywhere at once, unfortunately.
No, now that I know that, we'll have to let you know when we're up in Brizzy again.
Please, yes, we've not yet been to an Emma Memma show, so that's one's
Yeah.
left of the track. What have you learned about what works for entertaining children? I know that's a huge question, but
Yeah.
you've honed your act, and particularly Emma Memma in recent years. What have you brought to that project that you've learned from your years previously?
A lot. I feel like that's essentially, everything that we think about. I've now been in this space performing for children for 15 years. So it's been a huge change from going, from starting with a group that already had so much momentum. And, for me, I was a backup dancer for the original lineup of the Wiggles. So I would see that secondhand and see that, excitement, and what the children were relating to with the original group. Me in the background, I was having a ball. I didn't really think about it. And then when I became a Wiggle, I obviously felt way more pressure, to make sure that that audience was still loving the music. And, over time that really grew. And so Emma Wiggle kind of, became so loved and was such a huge part of my life. And then when we started Emma Memma, we realized that we started from scratch. And to go out and perform for families far and wide that maybe have never heard the songs because they're not an institution, that was a game changer, which meant that everything that we do with Emma Memma has to be able to hook that audience on from the minute they walk in to the minute that they leave. And that, as a performer, changes the way that you look at performing, because you can't rely on pre-existing music or pre-existing ideas, scenes, concepts. Now that MMM is 3 years in, you do have that sense of brand love from certain people, but most of the time this is their very first concert for their child, or even their very first experience for MMM. So for us, it's really about, tuning in and working out how to interact and engage that audience for the full 45 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I was listening to your songs on the way in on the train, hit SOS,
Oh,
and I was intrigued by the way that I was probably the only person on the train listening to Remember, like for you, like mix. Well, and enjoyed the immersion, and I'm curious how
yeah.
your songwriting has evolved around
Mm.
writing for children, in particular with this project.
Yeah, it certainly has changed. And, I was really fortunate to be part of a lot of the Wiggles songwriting when I was there too, understanding what children, really love, especially from the Wiggles as a brand, because that musically is completely different almost to Emma Memma. And so when we started Emma Memma, really our focus was bringing dance and visual language to children. So the best thing that's happened to us is that when we first started with Emma Memma, we wanted to make sure that the songs were being driven by sign language. And so, what signs or what concepts could we bring to children in a simple way, but also so that everyone could understand? So that really, from the get go with Emma Memma, our aim is that everybody is there at the same playing field, like everybody can join in, everyone can understand what the concept is. And so, that first album, a lot of our songs only had 2 words or 2 signs, like Twirly Tuesday or Wombat Wednesday. And so it meant that everyone in the audience had the opportunity to have enough repetition, but not too much. But obviously, everyone could join in with the concept, sign it, dance it, sing along, and participate. But now, as it's gone on, and now we've had a few albums out, we've been able to broaden our opportunities a little bit. But actually, having sign language be that key driver for concept means that the song stays as simple as possible. And for our audience, we see that the children interact with our songs when they are achievable. So sometimes aspirational is good, and there are story songs and dancing songs. But now in the live show, we appreciate that if that song and that concept has something really engaging for children, like a crocodile, and that the song is called Crocodile Snap, and the action is based on the sign crocodile, and the crocodile is snapping, then we know that that instantly is a game changer.
Mm-hmm. So I write about music for The Australian, and a lot of the artists I speak to are in pop or rock or hip hop or heavy metal. And a big part of the music sector, particularly the live business, is, shall we say, nighttime activities, which can include things like substance abuse and alcohol use. Is that something that you have avoided throughout your time in the industry?
Yeah, I feel very grateful to be in children's entertainment where, I mean, I know that that can happen, but I guess that's not been a part of our world at all. And I think, when you are in that family space, that's obviously important for the audience, but also as a performer, I'm such a nana because we perform. I'm up at 6 a.m. That I really rarely go out, and because we're in the country, there is nowhere. I'm at home in the country with my husband and the dogs. So, there's nothing to do, except for go to bed. But you know, for performers that get stuck in that whirlpool, that can be a very, you know, it's a very tricky place that some people get stuck. And I hope that there are more ways for people to, you know, avoid that situation in the future.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier endometriosis, which you shared with the world, I think in 2018, your diagnosis there. Was that a hard decision for you to weigh up the kind of privacy of your personal health versus sharing it more widely?
I like, in a weird way, I didn't even really think about myself. I was mostly just worried about the little ones because they'd booked tickets to our tour at the time. And for me, I'd never missed a show. So I was really concerned about people being upset, and especially the children that were coming to see Emma Wiggle at the time, and the Wiggles as a whole. I felt like I had let everyone down. And so for me, being the only woman in the group at that time, conversations in the world were very different. And a lot of people thought that I was pregnant, but actually it was the complete opposite. So it didn't feel right to just say I'm leaving for a bit. It felt like we had to be really transparent about what was happening and that I was going in for surgery and I was having a laparoscopy. And then I ended up realizing and discovering that I had endo stage 4. And so I think it was just important to be really open with the audience. But at that time, I didn't understand, I guess, the magnitude of that announcement. And even today, at every single show and in the street at the shops, I get approached about my story with endometriosis. And then, I'm relayed stories of other women's, moments, experiences, struggles daily. And that's been going, these last 6-7 years. And it's a good reminder how many people are living with endometriosis.
Yeah, that seems like an interesting fork in the road where you could have
Yeah.
hidden the truth, I suppose, or yes, made rather statements, but you went the truth route, and you're still experiencing the benefits of that socially and societally, perhaps.
Yeah, and I think not that it's not about me, but I do feel like I think once everyone knows, people are less like they're less likely to attack you. As in, I think people are a little bit more understanding now that the conversation has been a little bit more widespread. I mean, not a little bit more widespread. The conversation has definitely grown. And when I was diagnosed, I didn't even know what endometriosis was, whereas I think the conversation is bigger now. And thanks to some amazing other people that are in the media that have been able to be really vocal about their experiences with endometriosis, namely Bindi Irwin, a good friend of mine, and just she has essentially changed the landscape for this and has brought that awareness to so many people around the globe, which we are forever grateful for. But I think people recognize that everyday life, let alone touring and performing for children, that's a lot of work. And I think people can at times be a bit more understanding, which is great. It's really good.
Last question on that subject, perhaps. For someone who is just starting out on that journey, what do you know now about that condition that you wished you knew before it was more commonly known in the wider Australian society?
I think it's just trying to get as many opinions as possible because I think most of the stories is that they feel that something's not right. They go for a first look and then, they're turned away or they're dismissed. And so I think for a lot of women, they feel like they're either making it up or it's a lie or, you just need to deal with it. And I think that's been a big barrier that has broken down. I think women now understand that, no, there actually probably is something going on because you know yourself better than anybody else. And so it really is just about that persistence.